صلوات اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم فإن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يهلكنا قبلها يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقا قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الفاتحة. على محمد وآل محمد. زندہ سے جا ہوئے بلا مانے لپٹ کے قبرے سکینہ پہ دی صدا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا چھوٹی سی تربت پہ ماں نے کہا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا زندہ سے جاتا ہے اب قافلہ اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا مجھے شاہزادی تمہاری قسم نہ رکھوں گی زندہ سے باہر قدم سفر کی اب ہوتی ہے تیاریاں امانی میں بیٹھے ہیں ہلے غربت کا میری تمہیں واسطہ اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا مجھے یاد اصغر کی ہے بے کسی لحد سے وہ میت نکالی گئی اکیلے نہ رہنے میں دوں گی بھروسہ نہیں چاہیوں کا کوئی رہتے چاروں طرف اشکیا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا کہانی سناؤں گی میں اگر نیند آئی سلاؤں گی میں اکیلے نناکے پہ بیٹھوں گی تمہیں ساتھ اپنے بٹھاؤں گی میں रसन में न होगा गला। उठो सकीना चले करबला। उठो सकीना चले करबला। मुझे मार डालेगा बस यही गम। कमर में है बेटी तुम्हारी जो हम। वरम बाजुओं का मुझे याद है। तुम्हें तो दिखाई भी देता है गम। अकबर से बीबी शिफा। उठो सकीना चले करबला। उठो सकीना चले करबला। उठो सकीना चले करबला। सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we enter these days and continue in these days of Azar, we pass our condolences to the Imam of our time and to all the Mu'mineen. Can I request the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha for all of our Marhumeen, Surah Al-Fatiha. For this Ashra-e Zainabiyya program, who has travelled from Sweden to be here with us for these nights. Sheikh Hasnain was born and raised in Trollhättan in Sweden. Having focused on economics and accounting during his A-levels, he moved on to Arabic and Oriental studies at the University of Uppsala. He has also spent time at the University of Damascus for Arabic studies. He then moved on to completing a BA and MA in Islamic Studies at Islamic College in London, where he also engaged in classical Shia seminary studies. Since then, he has continued his studies in the fields of comparative religion, history of religions, and the Arabic language. He has translated a number of primary Shia texts into Swedish and is currently engaged with a Quran translation project. He is an employee at the Swedish Agency for Support to Faith Communities, where he works in fields relating to religious minorities, human rights, and crisis management. For these nights, the Yaadgaare Zainab programs, Sheikh will be speaking to us on the topic of obstacles to integrity, covering different obstacles for each evening. Before we welcome Sheikh to begin the Majlis, can I please request Mu'mineen to kindly move as far towards the front of the hall as possible to fill the gap so that those entering later on are able to take a seat with the recitation of Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
As we welcome Sheikh Hasnain, please can I request the loudest of your salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. فاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرضين. الحمد لله الذي بعث أنبياءه بالحق والهدى ثم ختمهم بحبيبه المصطفى. الحمد لله الذي جعل إكمال ديننا وإتمام نعمته بولاية المرتضى. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين بالقاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه وقوله الحق بعد نقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عهد الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Elders, brothers and sisters in Iman and Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin with giving my condolences to the mu'mineen present, to those all over the earth, and to the Ahlul Bayt, especially as we are approaching the 4th year of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. I also express my gratitude to the mu'mineen of this community of Wessex Jamaat for giving me the opportunity to serve the cause of Abu Abdullah and serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this community, especially to Sheikh for allowing me to sit here while he himself humbly sits there, although it should always be the other way around and I should be listening to my elders. Although I haven't been to Wessex Jamaat earlier or before, but there is another affinity to this Jamaat, which is Sheikh Mujahid, which I know belongs to this community as well. And I remember in Sweden when I was a young child, he came in the 90s, he came to our community in Trollhättan where I used to live then. And I remember listening to his lectures, and one of my earliest memories, someone was earlier asking me, who is your inspiration? And indeed, one of those inspirations that I had at an early age was Sheikh Mujahid. So for the longevity and health of both Sheikh Abbas and Sheikh Mujahid, please recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As you heard that the topic, inshallah, for tonight and the following nights will be obstacles to integrity. Now, for tonight, we will, inshallah, be a bit more theoretical, and then from tomorrow will be more practical. The reason is because we need to understand what is integrity before we can explain, before we can examine what are the obstacles towards integrity. We need to understand what is integrity and how does the failure to have integrity express itself. So this will inshallah be tonight's discussion, and tomorrow we'll go into practical steps into what are the obstacles of integrity. The verse that I started off reciting, the ayah from the Quran that I started off reciting, is one that you find Imam Hussein was repeating on the day of Ashura. According to the Maqtal, this is a verse that he would recite at least a few times after the death of some of the companions. Amongst them, for example, Habib ibn Madad and so forth. The verse is من المؤمنين. Now, this is from Surah Al-Ahzab. بعد نقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. من المؤمنين, amongst the believers, they are those رجال صدقوا ما عهد الله عليه. They are those that have kept true to the promise they have made Allah. They have made a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is an ahad, there is a mithaq between them and God, and they have kept true to that promise. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبًا. Some of them have already fulfilled their pledge. So all of them have kept true to the promise. Some of the believers, not all the believers. This is very important. Allah doesn't say all the believers. Allah says, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. There are amongst the believers some who have kept to the promise. Some have already fulfilled their pledge. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. Amongst them there are those who still are waiting. They haven't kept their pledge in the sense that they have not fulfilled the promise yet. But God says, وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. But they have not changed in the least. Meaning whatever promise they made God, whatever they said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever they told the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that they will do, that they will sacrifice, they are still standing by that word. They did not change. مَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They haven't changed. They haven't gone away from their promise. They are still standing on that promise. Now, why is Imam Hussein repeating these specific words on the day of Ashura? Because you find that on the opposite side, in the Amal of Ashura, one of the Amal is a 4 rakat prayer, and on that 4 rakat prayer is Surah Al-Ahzab. Perhaps because of this very ayah. But they had. And the opposite side of the army, the opposite army that is there to attack Imam Hussein, there are those who have also made promises to Imam Hussein. So you have with Imam Hussein those who made promises, like Habib ibn Madahir, like Zuhair ibn Qayn, like Abbas ibn Ali, and so forth. You had several companions who made promises to Imam Hussein. On the day of Ashura, they stand by that promise. On the other side, we have people who also had made promises to Imam Hussein. They had written letters to Imam Hussein. They had said, we have no Imam, come to us, you are our Imam. They had said, we promise to follow you. They had said, we are tired of the Umayyads, come to us. We want you to be our ruler. We will pledge our loyalty to you. Come and we will sacrifice everything for you. But when the time came, they did not keep their promise. So Imam Hussein is highlighting that there are some people who have integrity to the point that even if they have to sacrifice their lives, they will sacrifice their lives, but they will keep their promise. On the other hand, you have people who they could have shown integrity when Ibn Ziyad enters Kufa. They showed no integrity. They could have shown integrity when Hani ibn Urwa was taken as a prisoner. They had no integrity. They could have shown integrity when Muslim ibn Aqil was abandoned. They showed no integrity. They could have shown integrity when Muslim ibn Aqil was killed, but they showed no integrity. They could have shown integrity when Ibn Ziyad orders the army to leave Kufa to surround the camp of Abu Abdullah. They showed no integrity. What does integrity mean? What is it that we are talking about? In the Latin language, integral means something that is complete, something that is full, something that is not broken. Now, when you look up the word integrity in the dictionary, you find the meaning firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values, meaning incorruptibility. You cannot be corrupted. Your whatever values that you have, the values that you want to live by, you live by those values. You do not go against those values. Number two, unimpaired condition, something that is soundness. Or number three, the quality or state of being complete or undivided, meaning completeness. Now these are the definition of the dictionaries. Let's look in the hadith, what the hadith says about the concept of integrity. There's a word in the Arabic language called muruwa. You ask any specialist of the Arabic language or anyone who studied anything from the Arabic language, you tell them to explain in one word the word muruwa, they will not be able to do that. In one word. They will say there are words that are approximate, but there is not one word that will transfer the meaning of muruwa. Now, approximates, for example, chivalry. Chivalry is an approximate meaning of the word muruwa. Another is integrity. Integrity is also one of those words that is an approximate meaning of muruwa. And Imam Ali salawatullah wa salamu alayhi is reported to have said that قدر الرجل على قدر همته and وصدقه على قدر مروءته. He says the worth of a man is measured by the extent of his ambitions. Now, this is very easy to say. We need to ponder upon this. Number one, Imam Ali does not say the value, this is the word, qadr. Not the dignity. All human beings are dignified. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have given the children of Adam karama. Every single child of Adam has karama, has dignity. But now Imam Ali says your qadr is now dependent on your ambition. What is your ambition? To put it simple, if my ambition when I wake up in the morning, my ambition is what will I eat and drink today, then my worth is what comes out of me. If my ambition when I wake up in the morning is to make the world a better place, then my worth, my qadr is according to that ambition. And the best ambition is always to make myself a better person. Before you try to change the world, try to change yourself. So Imam Ali says you have to have high ambitions. Now that doesn't mean just worldly ambitions. That does not negate worldly ambitions. Sometimes we find people will say that Islam is a religion that doesn't allow us to flourish in the world. Never did the Quran say that. You know, one of the things that Imam Ali was an expert in, we don't hear this very often. I'm not sure, maybe you've heard it here, but I find many communities, people are surprised. Imam Ali was an expert in finding water in the desert. So what he would do, he would walk for 25 years when he's not the Khalif, when he doesn't have the power, he would go into the desert. He would find places, because there's a rule in Islamic law, don't apply it here. There's a rule in Islamic law that says that if you find dead land, not owned by anyone, dead land, and you revive the land, that land belongs to you. If you revive dead land, you make water, you irrigate the land, now that land will belong to you, it is your land. There are still in Medina, there are places where a place called Ab'ar Ali, the wells of Amirul Mu'mineen, the wells of Imam Ali. Imam Ali would go into the deserts of Medina and of Mecca, in Sheikh, Abu Talib and other places. He would find water, he would irrigate the lands, he would make money. In my language, he would make what? He would make money. But now look at the integrity of Imam Ali. He would put this money in a trust. And he would tell Imam Hassan and Hussein, you are the caretakers of this trust. From this trust, you make sure you feed yourselves, you feed Bani Hashim, and you feed other mu'mineen that are in need of being fed. This is the integrity of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says your worth is according to what? According to your ambitions. You should have high ambitions. And then he says your sir, your truthfulness is in line, is according to your muruwa, according to your integrity. You can measure a man's sir, you can measure a man's integrity according to his truthfulness, and his truthfulness according to his integrity. Now, why is this important to mention? So we go back to Imam Hussein, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. We find that at one point during the saga or the history of Karbala, Imam Hussein says a few words which are very, if we were to understand them, sometimes I think we would cry more about our state than we cry because of our grief for Imam Hussein. He says, Inna nasa abidud dunya. He says, people are the servants of dunya. People are the servants of this world. وَالدِّينُ لَعِقٌ عَلَى لِسَانِهِ. And the deen, the religion, is something that is Now, la'iq, how can I make you understand what la'iq is? La'iq, in the Arabic word, I'm not sure if there's anyone who speaks Arabic here. No? Okay. So in the Arabic word, the word for spoon, in classical Arabic, the word for spoon is mal'aqa, from the word la'iqa, mal'aqa. How long time is the spoon in your mouth? When you eat food, you take the spoon, you place the food on your mouth, you take the spoon out. You don't chew the spoon, do you? You don't keep the spoon in your mouth. The spoon is there for a very short time. It is just a means. It is there to put something inside of your mouth and it is out. La'iqa, Imam Hussein says, this deen, this religion, people put it on their mouth just very briefly. It is there on their mouths, but when they are put through tests, as long as they have their ma'isha, as long as they have their livelihood, they are happy. As soon as mahhasu bil bala, as soon as they were put through trial, qallad dayanun, the people who are faithful, the people of deen are very, very few. Question. Imam Hussein praises some people. He says some people have kept to the promise that they made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Hussein condemns other people. He says these people are the servants of dunya. Where am I? Am I amongst those who calls upon my Imam, but then when the Imam comes, I say, sorry, I have other things to do. I say, sorry, there are people calling upon me. I say, sorry, I have family commitments. You know, amongst the people who were fighting Imam Hussein, these people were not just anyone. These people were praying. Imam Sadiq sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says that don't be surprised. Don't be amazed by people's salat and their fasting. People fast, they pray, they do all these good actions. He says they have become used to it. People have become used to it, so that if they don't fast and pray, then they'll not feel well. So they will pray and fast not to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala necessarily, but because it makes them feel well. Now, please don't take this as a ticket to say that you don't need to fast and pray. Please. It's like those people who say that the Quran says, La taqrabu salah. It doesn't say La taqrabu salah, it says La taqrabu salah wa antum sukara. Don't go near to prayers. The Quran says don't go near to prayers when you are drunk. It doesn't say just don't go near to prayers. So please understand me correctly. I'm not saying stop praying and stop fasting. I'm saying pray and fast for the sake of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't just have that qurbatan ilallah. Try to understand what qurbatan ilallah means. But Imam Sadiq says don't be surprised, don't be amazed by people doing these things. Rather, you test them in simple hadith. Are they truthful in their speech? And ada'ul amana, do they return any amana, anything that is given to them in trust? Do they return that trust to you? Now, Imam Hussein, on the day when Imam Hussein is going towards Kufa, there are people in Kufa who are the elite, the noblemen of Kufa. Amongst them is the son of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. Now, for you and me, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas might not say a lot. For our brothers of Ahl Sunnah, when they say the 10 people are promised paradise, they have a hadith, Ashra-e, you might have heard this. The 10 people are promised paradise. Amongst them is Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. He has the merit of being the one who defeats the armies of Persia. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, a hero amongst our brothers. Indeed, there are some hadith about the things that he has done during some riwayah, that the heroic action that he did during the time of the Prophet as well, during the Battle of Badr and so forth. Allahu A'lam. But now we're not talking about Sa'ad, we're talking about his son. His son is Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad, so now you know who I'm talking about. Umar ibn Sa'ad is the one who leads the army to kill Imam Hussein. Umar ibn Sa'ad he knows very well, he's a cousin. He's related to Imam Hussein. They are both from Quraysh and both very closely related. He's a cousin of Imam Hussein. He is someone who knows very well the position of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein is the grandson of Rasulullah, his Sayyid Shabab Ahlul Jannah. He knows all of these things, yet what makes him prepared to lead the army of Yazid or the army of Ibn Ziyad to attack Imam Hussein? It's because Ibn Ziyad says that if you attack Imam Hussein, I will give you the governorship of Ray. Ray today is what today is Tehran. Ray during those days was today is Tehran, meaning Iran. I will make you the governor of Right. Seems like people used to have this thing that, my father defeated this area, so I should be the ruler of this area. Yeah, you find this as a reoccurring theme in the history of Islam. Yeah, the point here is that he is promised that if you kill Imam Hussein, you will be given the rulership of Ray. You will become the governor of Ray. This also shows already there is a lack of integrity. Because when Imam Ali would send out Malik al-Ashtar, he would write to Malik al-Ashtar's letter, he would write to Malik al-Ashtar that when you go, remember, if you do any injustice, and if you any way try to benefit yourself from this, when Imam Ali makes Malik al-Ashtar the governor of Misr, of Egypt, he says, if you are unjust in any way, taking property from people, or making yourself rich somehow, or not fulfilling the rights of people, punishing someone who doesn't deserve to be punished, so forth, so forth. He says, any way you are unjust to people, remember, you have power over them, but your Imam has power over you, and your God has power over your Imam. Now, Imam Ali's vision of a governor is who? A person with integrity. Ibn Ziyad's vision of a governor is who? A person without integrity. Because what is Umar ibn Sa'ad thinking? He says, when I get to the governorship of Ray, my pockets will become heavy. I will go there and make my pockets heavy. You find you have other people who are abandoning Imam Hussein for different reasons. Everyone has a justification. Now you might say, but I'm not amongst them. I have integrity. Ahibbai, let's do a mind experiment, will you? Imagine this. Now, this might be a bit difficult for the younger ones to imagine or to join the experiment, but anyone who is above the age of driving, who has a driver's license, will be able to understand what I'm going to talk about. Imagine you're married, you have a small child at home, that child is maybe 1-2 years of age. You come home from work. Now, we live in an egalitarian society, so whether the brother sitting in front of me or the sister sitting next to here, whoever this example applies to, whether you be the man of the house or the woman of the house. Imagine you come home and your spouse is waiting for you and says that this morning you drank up almost all the milk. We have no milk in the house. The baby needs milk. I want you to go to the store and get some milk. So you look outside, you just come home after a very long day of work, you look outside, it's raining, maybe even snowing. Does it snow in Wessex? Sometimes, no? Okay. Sorry?
Do you mean hailing? It's like...
Let's go with hailing. Brilliant. Let's go with hailing. Perfect. That's even better. Thank you very much. It's hailing. It's raining and hailing. And it's dark, it's cold. You sit in your car, you go to a shop. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't know which shops you have close by here anyway. Here we go. Alhamdulillah. So you go there and you come close to Asda and you find that the whole parking lot, they're actually doing some refurbishing, they're doing some rezoning, I don't know, whatever. You cannot park close to Asda. The only parking space that is closed, that where you can go close to Asda or whatever shop you're going to, is the disabled parking. If you don't use the disabled parking, you will learn how to park where? You'll have to park 3 minutes away. 3 minutes walk away, or 2 minutes. Remember, it's even 30 seconds. It's raining, it's hailing, it's cold, and so forth. Okay. So now you have a choice to make. Do you park far away or do you park in the disabled parking? Now, if you have integrity, what will you do? You park far away. You will put your car far away. But now, we human beings, we have something called cognitive dissertation. Cognitive means something to do with the mind, with the thinking. In dissertation, something that is messed up. Basically, how our thought patterns get messed up. And the psychologists, they will explain to us that there are several different ways that we can apply these kind of cognitive dissertations. For example, there's something called rationalization. So you must say, no, I realize I shouldn't park on the disabled parking, but if it was daytime, I wouldn't park there. It's night, it's cold. I'm not going to cause anyone trouble. No one who is disabled is going to come at this hour and park at this place. That's rationalization. No, you could use justification. It's raining and I don't have an umbrella. It's perfectly justified for me to stand here. Why? Because I don't have an umbrella with me. You could use minimization. Look, I'm just going to go buy milk. It's not a big deal. It's just going to take a few minutes. I'll go in and I'll come out. Just 2 minutes. No, I'm not going to bother anyone. You could magnify the problem. The only other place is so far away, it will take me forever and I'll get cold and there's rain and so forth. I have to park here because the problem is so huge. No, you could use the blame. You could say what? If my partner, if my spouse had remembered to buy milk, I wouldn't have been in this position. I'm parking on the disabled parking, not because of me, because of someone else. We're putting the blame on someone else. Entitlement. I'm a taxpayer. I've been working the whole day. It's not fair to expect that I should walk all this distance just to get some milk. Uniqueness. It's okay for me to park here. Why? Because I've been living 20 years. I've been a good citizen in this community. I never do anything wrong. Just today, let me park here. Although we always do a lot of things wrong. I'm sure you have this problem in UK as well, that when people are perfectly upstanding citizens, put them behind the wheel, and that upstandingness disappears out of the window, right? Anyway, mental filter. I'm not going to let myself remember that last time you parked on the disabled parking or on the double yellow line, you got a ticket. I'm not going to let myself remember that. I have a very important thing to do right now. You could put yourself as the victim. Typical. Trust me, I would go to this very shop. I could have gone to Sainsbury's instead, but I chose to came to Asda because of this young brother. Trust me to go to Asda when I could have gone to the other shop. You put yourself in the victim stance. Normalization. Everyone does this. Everyone is doing this. Why should I not be able to do this when everyone else is doing this? Denial. It won't harm anyone if no one knows. Or helplessness. I know I shouldn't, but I can't help myself. I'm in this situation that I have to do this and so forth. Now, all of these examples show us what? This is a very simple example, but in day-to-day life, we tend to make exceptions. We have high values, we have high goals, we want to live up to those values, we say that we want to be on that level, but when something happens that makes life a bit difficult, it's very easy to use a justification or a rationalization or somehow allow our thoughts to take us to a place to say that, yeah, I know this is wrong, but for me today it's okay because of this or that. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Saf, Surah number 61 in the Quran, He says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, ba'da naqul a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. O you who believe, why do you say that which you don't do? Why do you say that which you don't do? Kabura maqtan 'inda Allah an taqulu ma la taf'alun. It is a big, kabura means something that is great or huge. Maqt means something that is hateful. So it is something that is very hateful in the sight of Allah that you do that you say something and do something else. That you have made, for example, you make a promise, you say that these are my values. This is what I stand by, but you don't live up to that. And at the end of the day, there's another word in Arabic that we could use as an approximate for integrity, which is istiqama. Istiqama means that you are steadfast, you remain true to your values. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about istiqama. If you recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So in Surah Fussilat, it says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهَ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. Those who say that our Lord is God, then they are steadfast on that. On those people, the angels descend. And then in Surah Shura, He explains, وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. He says that be steadfast as you have been commanded. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. What does it mean to be steadfast? Don't follow their desires. be steadfast as you have been commanded. Don't follow their desires, meaning the desires of unbelievers. This is a command to the Prophet and from the Prophet to us. وَقُلْ آمَنْتُ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ كِتَابٍ, and say that I believe in what God has revealed of the book. So here we find that istiqamah means what? Not to follow desires. Imam Ali then explains, according to a riwayah, he says that al-istiqamatu salama. He says istiqamah, steadfastness, to remain true to remain on the things that you have promised to be on. This is peace. This is to be at peace. And he says, أفضل السعادة استقامة الدين. He says the best sa'adah, the best joy, the best happiness is to remain mustaqim on your faith, on your deen. Let me give you an example. What am I talking about here? Sometimes we might think that we are making life easier by not living up to our values. So we make a promise to ourselves that I have, these are the stories, the narratives we tell ourselves, I have these certain values. Then we face a hardship, we face a problem, or we face any small thing, and we say, okay, only this time I will step away from my values. And we think that this will make me happy. There's a story of how two young boys, I don't know the community, so I'm just going to use two names and presume that no one here has these names. If you do, then please forgive me. Let's say that you have two boys called Zaid and Hamid. Zaid has a bag of marbles. Hamid has a bag of candies. Now, Zaid has the marbles, Hamid has the candies. Zaid wants the candies, Hamid wants the marbles. So they agree. They say, let's change. You get all of my marbles, you get all of my candies. As soon as they have agreed upon this, Zaid now, before handing over the marbles, he realizes he has a couple of marbles he really likes. So when Hamid is not looking, he takes them out of the bag and puts them in his pocket. They make the switch. Hamid also has some candies he really likes, but he's made a promise, so he gives the whole bag. Now, no one is the wiser, no one knows what they've lost, what they've gained. At night, Hamid, when he goes to bed, he's very happy. He has a bag full of marbles, he wanted the marbles, he's very happy. Zaid, he looks at the bag of candies and then he starts thinking, what if Hamid held something back? Because he himself held something back. Now he's starting to think, what if Hamid also held something back? What if Hamid held more than two candies? I held two marbles back. What if he kept more than two? What if he kept 3 back, 4 back? What if he didn't give me all his candy? What if he didn't give me everything that he had, that he promised to give me? Because he himself was not truthful, now he's looking from that perspective and he's seeing that the other party is not being truthful as well. Ahibai, yes, you have a question? This is like guilt, exactly. So what happens is when you're not truthful to your word and when you are not truthful to your integrity, you will be guilt laden. This is what happens in Karbala. You find that the enemies of Imam Hussein, once the deed has been done, they are all blaming each other. Ibn Ziyad is blaming Shimr. Yazid is blaming Ibn Ziyad. Everyone is blaming each other. Oh, I didn't mean this to happen. Even today you find people saying, Yazid didn't mean this to happen. Ibn Ziyad didn't mean this to happen. These people didn't mean this to happen. Oh, the Shias made this happen. With people, when they start going, they'll start blaming everyone. So they start saying, these people are to blame. No, not these people. They will put the blame on others. You find that they are not resting. Yazid cannot sleep because of what he has done. He cannot find peace because of what he has done. But on the other hand, you find that Lady Zainab, having gone through all those difficulties, having seen her brothers dead, having seen her children die, having seen her nephews die, having seen her sisters and other women folk being taken as captives, being paraded from town to town, having gone through all these difficulties, when Ibn Ziyad says to her, how did you find how God treated you? She stands and smiles and says, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I saw nothing but beauty. Why? Because she has integrity. I know this is terrible, all these things that are difficult to bear, But you know what? All these difficulties, we bear it easily. What does Imam Hussein say on the plains of Karbala when he carries that young child in his arms and he looks towards the enemy army and the enemy army looks towards him and they shoot an arrow and the arrow pierces through the neck of the child from one side to the other? Imam Hussein looks towards the sky and he says, God, you know what makes this easy for me? Is that you are watching. I'm doing this for you. If I'm doing this for you, he's in grief, no doubt about that. He is in grief. Lady Zainab is in grief, but they bear it because they have integrity. They know what their values are. And this is what we need to look at. This is where we need to aim towards. We need to be people of high values and high integrity. Our actions has to be aligned with our words. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Hajj, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. Amongst people, there are those who worship Allah ala harfin, on a verge. They are just between. They are not, as we said, Imam Hussein said, people are abidul dunya, they are the worshippers of the world. God says there are people who are worshipping Allah on a harf, on the verge. They just, anything happens, they will go this way. فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ. If he gets good in his life, he's satisfied with that. He's happy. You won't see him walking away from his principles. You won't see him walking away from his values. As long as things are well. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتُ فِتْنَةٌ إِنْقَلَبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ خَسِرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. But if something evil afflicts him, he turns on his face. Such a person, because he's turned his face from Allah, such a person has lost his dunya and he has lost his akhirah. He's lost everything. He's lost the plot, basically. We don't want to be amongst those people. So what we want to look at, these people who are worshipping, and this is indeed when Imam Hussein is addressing the army of Yazid, as he's addressing the army of Yazid on the day of Ashura, in one of his khutbahs, as he's presenting his case, Shimr responds to Imam Hussein. Imagine this. Shimr responds to Imam Hussein saying that I don't see the man, he's telling his people, the army, that I don't see the man that he's worshipping Allah illa ala harfin. He doesn't worship Allah except on the verge. He's referring to this verse. That he doesn't worship Allah. He says all these big things. Shimr is accusing Imam Hussein that he's saying all these things, that he's the grandson of Rasulullah and so forth, but he's only worshipping Allah on the harf. And Habib ibn al-Mazahir gets angry and he says, I don't see you except to be worshipping Allah on 70 harf. This is he's using exaggeration. How dare you accuse Imam Hussein to be worshipping Allah on this level? It is you who are ready to kill the grandson of Rasulullah, who are ready to break your oath, the oath that you made when you promised to protect the grandson of Rasulullah. You've broken that oath. It is you who are worshipping Allah on a harf. In the Gospels, you find Nabi Isa accusing the Pharisees, you find him accusing some of the leaders of Bani Israel. He says that these people, they are following the letter of the law, but they have forgotten the spirit of the law. This is exactly what was the problem with the people. They are praying, they are fasting, they are protecting the leader, but who's the leader? They are following the letter of the law, but they've forgotten the spirit of the law. So what we want to look at, inshallah, during the 3 nights that we have ahead of us, are 3 things that makes us go against our integrity. 3 things that tears down our integrity. So that when we recognize what these 3 things are, if we have time, we might do something else as well. We might do 2 topics in one night, we'll see. But if we recognize these 3 things, it will make us all the stronger and it will make our integrity the stronger. Now, one person that we find was a person of integrity is Imam Sajjad. Imam Sajjad, and you know, the mind baffles when you think about this. How he could stand patient, having seen his brothers being killed, his cousins being killed, his father, his uncles, everyone being killed, and then his aunt is being taken as prisoners, his aunt's being taken as prisoners, his lady cousins, his sisters, and yet he has so much patience. You know, the integrity of Imam Sajjad is this, and we'll go to Masaib after this. At one point, a person who was a major player in the army of Kufa that came to attack Imam Hussein, he finds himself in Medina, and he finds himself in a situation where he has to flee from another army, from people trying to attack him. He goes outside of Medina. Imam Sajjad at that time is outside of Medina. I'm not going to tell you the whole backdrop, but at that point Imam Sajjad is outside of Medina, his tents are outside of Medina. This man finds himself at the doors of Imam Sajjad. He seeks the protection of Imam Sajjad. At that point, when he's seeking the protection, he thinks that Imam Sajjad is not realizing who he is. As the person has taken protection there, when he wants to leave, Imam Sajjad has fed him. Imam Sajjad has given him a place to sleep. The next day he wants to leave. Imam Sajjad says, I will give you something for your trip, maybe a horse, maybe a camel, something. I'll give you some money, I'll give you something so that you are safe on your onward travels. This person at that point turns to Imam Sajjad. He says, I think you probably don't realize who I am, what role I played in Karbala. Imam Sajjad turns to him and he says, I know. Then we were your guests. Now you are my guest. The integrity of Imam Sajjad. But this Imam Sajjad would cry for his father. The narration says that he spent so many years crying. The people of Medina, they knew that if we are to slaughter an animal, we should not slaughter it in front of Imam Sajjad. Because if we slaughter it in front of Imam Sajjad, he will ask us. And he would ask that when you slaughtered this animal, did you give the animal water? And they would say, we are on the religion of your grandfather. Of course we gave the animal water before we killed it, before we slaughtered it. When you killed the animal, did you slaughter it quickly? We are on the path of your grandfather, we slaughtered it quickly. Imam Sajjad would turn towards Karbala and he would say, but my father in Karbala was killed thirsty. No one gave him water before he was killed, and he was killed inhumanely. And when he would be asked, when was the most difficult time? Imam could have said, it was when my father lost my brother Ali Akbar. It was very difficult for me. He could have said that it was when the flag fell from the hands of my uncle Abbas. He could have said it was when I lost my 6-month-old brother. He could have said it was when I lost my cousin Qasim when his body was trampled upon. But Imam Sajjad does not say that. He says, Asham, Asham, Asham. He refers to Damascus and he says, Damascus was the most difficult time. And I ask myself, what did Imam Sajjad say? What that was so difficult in Sham? One of the companions of Rasulullah called Sahal ibn Sa'ad al-Sa'idi, he reports, he says, I was traveling to go towards Jerusalem, and I passed through Damascus, and I saw that they had ornaments, they had decorated Damascus, and I was wondering, what Eid is this? What mahfil is this? What are they celebrating that I don't know of? So I asked someone that why is everyone so joyous in Damascus? What are you celebrating here today? So they asked him, who are you? He said, I'm Sahal ibn Sa'ad al-Sa'idi, the companion of Rasulullah. They say, Sahal, are you not surprised that the heavens are not rent asunder and that there is no blood falling from the skies? He said, why? What has happened? He said that Hussein has been killed in Karbala. And they are taking these people that you see standing outside the gates. These are the women folk of Hussein. And the heads that you see in the spears, they are the heads of Hussein and his companions. As Sahal hears this, he moves towards the women folk who are standing, and he finds one of the women folk. This is the daughter of Hussein. And he finds the daughter of Hussein, and he says that, who are you? She says, I'm the daughter of Hussein. He says, I'm Sahal ibn Sa'ad. Tell me, can I do anything to help you in this position? She says, there is one thing you can do. She points towards one of the soldiers that is holding a spear in his hand. On the spear is the head of Hussein. She says to Sahal, Sahal, if you can ask that man to move ahead, far away from us, because when the head is close to us, people first see the head, then they see the daughters of Hussein, they see the sisters of Hussein next to the head. We cannot bear that people are seeing us in this situation. So Sahal goes to the man, he says, I bribed the man, I gave him 400 dirhams to move ahead. Now I think of Imam Sajjad. Imam Sajjad, what is he thinking in this situation? That Sahal could make the man move ahead, but Imam Sajjad had to see in from town, city to city, how his sisters and his aunts were paraded in the cities. This Imam Sajjad finds himself in the darbar of Yazid. He finds himself in the darbar of Yazid, and he sees that a khatib is going on the minbar and he's cursing Imam Ali and Imam Hussein, and he asks, he says that allow me to go on the minbar. And finally, when there's a lot of pressure on Imam Hussein, on Yazid, Yazid allows Imam Sajjad to go on the minbar, and he starts preaching. And when he preaches, he tells the people, he says, I'm the son of Muhammad Mustafa, and he tells the praises of Muhammad Mustafa. He says, I'm the son of Ali al-Murtada, and he tells the praises of Ali al-Murtada. He says, I'm the son of Khadija al-Kubra, and he tells the praises of Khadija al-Kubra. He says, I'm the son of Fatima al-Zahra, and he tells the praises of Fatima al-Zahra. Then he says, I'm the son of Hussein. Then he says, I'm the son of the one who lies bathing in his own blood in Karbala. I'm the son of the one whose head was paraded from town to town. When he's introducing himself, Yazid fears that people are going to turn against him. So he gives the mu'adhin, he gives him the command. He says, give the adhan. So the mu'adhin gives the adhan. He says, Allahu Akbar. At that point, Imam Sajjad says, there is nothing greater than Allah. He says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Imam Sajjad looks towards the mu'adhin. He says that my skin, my blood, my whole body bears witness that there is no God but Allah. When the mu'adhin says, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, at that point, Imam Sajjad looks towards Yazid. He says, Muhammadun hadha jaddak am jaddi. This Muhammad that he mentioned, is he your grandfather or is he my grandfather? Oh Yazid, if he's your grandfather, you have lied. And if you say he's my grandfather, why have you killed the grandson of Rasulullah? Why have you taken the daughters of Rasulullah as prisoners? Why? What made you do this sin? وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلب يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها. Oh Allah, we ask you that you forgive us for our sins and that you increase our tawfiqat. We ask you that you forgive the sins of all those who are present in the family members. We ask you that you hasten the appearance of Imam al-Hujjah and that you join us with his closest associates. We ask you wherever we see oppression around the world that you allow us to be amongst those who remove oppression and assist those who are oppressed. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. ماتم الحسين.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya
की रिदाएं उतर गई, ज़हरा की बेटियों 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 की रिदाएं उतर गई, सजाद को ज़ईफ़ सदाएं कर गई, زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، لاشوں کو رسیوں میں جکڑ کر لیے پھرو، لاشوں کو رسیوں میں جکڑ کر لیے پھرو، سیدانیہ تو گھر سے نکلتے مر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، جاتی تھی جو کبھی کبھی زہرا کی قبر پر، جاتی تھی جو کبھی کبھی زہرا کی قبر پر، جانے خدا ہجوم سے کیسے گزر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، ظلم و ستم کی تیز ہوائیں جب چلی، ظلم و ستم کی تیز ہوائیں جب چلی، سب گلشن بطول کی کلیاں بکھر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، رب لائے پوچھتی تھی سکینہ سے قید میں، رب لائے پوچھتی تھی سکینہ سے قید میں، زخمی ہے کان والی ابھی بھی کدھر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی،
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك حجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل. Mu'mineen, can I please kindly request you to take your seats and follow the instructions of the marshals and volunteers with regards to leaving the centre. Can I also ask that we end the programme with the recitation of Surah Al-Mubarak al-Fatiha, for the Thawab, Wal-Marhameen, and Al-Fatiha.